Welcome back to the Bold Podcast. I'm Todd Birch, your guide on this exciting journey of personal growth and leadership, where my guests and I will share personal stories from our transformational journeys of how small changes can lead to massive results. You'll discover tips on overcoming obstacles, setting and achieving goals, building lasting habits, living a happy, healthy, and positive life, and so much more. If you're ready to cultivate a growth mindset and become the best version of yourself, then let's ignite your growth today. Our guest today is Scott J. Allen, Ph.D., an award-winning educator and expert in leader development, executive communication, and the future of work. With over 18 years of experience as a management professor, Scott is now a leadership consultant with Winding River Consulting and an instructor at SMU's Cox School of Business. He is also a prolific author and podcast host of Phronesis, Practical Wisdom for Leaders. Scott has impacted organizations across industries, including NASA, Toyota, and Cleveland Clinic, bringing his expertise to leadership development and organizational transformation through keynote speaking, consulting, workshops, and leading retreats. Listeners, get ready to be educated. This is going to be so good. Scott, welcome to the podcast, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. I'm excited to be here. Looking forward to the conversation.
Yes, me too. I know we have a lot of things to talk about. We have so much in common, right, with leadership development. So let's just dig into this.
Yeah, let's do it.
So if you were to define leadership in one word, what would that be?
One word.
That's it? I know.
Influence.
Well, that didn't take you long.
No. So
influence. Why?
The longer definition I often use is the process of influencing others toward a common vision. The process of influencing others toward a common vision. So can I use myself to mobilize, energize, enthuse a group of people? And ultimately, that's an influence process. So that's a whole fun topic. There's this whole world of these things called influence tactics. So how do we influence? With your marketing background and with your advertising background and that's influence as well. But it's generally speaking, when I boil it down to one word, influence. So can I influence my children to move in a certain direction, or influence a colleague, or influence a client or my supervisor? It all comes down to influence for me. Now, one way we could also take the conversation is that there's a difference between influence and authority. Sometimes you have a person in a position of authority. They're the boss, so to speak, but they may not have a lot of influence among the team. Right. And you've worked for this individual, right?
Right.
And then there's individuals who never really have to access their authority. You just wanted to work above and beyond for them. You wanted to go to the extra mile. So that's that dynamic that just absolutely fascinates me, keeps me up at night. I'm constantly seeking kind of what is behind this whole process of influencing others. What is it about an individual when you're in their presence and you just feel motivated, you feel excited? Maybe it was that teacher you had, that coach you had. Maybe it was mom or dad, hopefully. But there's so much going on in that dynamic. I just have jet fuel for the topic. I really do. But for me, one word, influence.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And that has to come from a place of authenticity, right? Because I feel like there's a lot of influencers right, online, social media, that aren't really authentic. And you could build a following, right? But are you really leading an effort or a conversation that's meaningful, that is sustainable?
Yeah. So authenticity, yes. I mean, the glue in any human relationship is trust. And as soon as I no longer trust you, or at least some red flags go off as to whether or not I should, then maybe some of that influence begins to wane a little bit. I might keep you at arm's length. I may not authentically kind of be as enthusiastic or energized, because we've all been hurt. We've all been cast aside. We've all been wronged at some point. So we have an antenna for that. So that authenticity is incredibly important for sure. Now, and this is another fun part of the conversation. Plenty of people in world history who are not authentically good people have risen to the highest levels and have had a great deal of power, right? And so it's really, really interesting because sometimes toxic individuals, bad actors, they move through organizations quickly as well. And that's interesting. How? Why? What's going on in that context that really kind of allows that to occur? Fascinating, right?
Right. So are there some similar characteristics that you see with good and bad, quote unquote, leaders?
Yeah. Well, okay. So you could look at leadership like this. You could say the word influence sometimes can have, or influencer can kind of have a negative connotation. It can, for sure. Same thing with the word power. That can have a negative connotation at times. For me, the words influence, the word power, they're kind of benign concepts. Humans make it so. So great good has been done with influence in world history. Great good. Horrible atrocities as well. And same thing with power. People who've had power have done incredible good with that power. But at times, people have used power for just destruction, just evil, right? So for me, humans make it so. I think when I'm talking about leadership, one of the most foundational conversations that we can have is, are you solid in who you are and what you stand for? Is your moral compass clear? Are you an individual who is in that foundation solidly? So that when your ethics are challenged, when you find yourself in a situation where you're being asked to do something that goes against that, do you have that solid foundation? And I think at times, some people don't. Sometimes the system corrupts them. Sometimes they gain power. And then, the old adage that absolute power corrupts. So it's interesting. I think another thing on this conversation, for any leader, are you solid in who you are and what you stand for? But then also, who are your thinking partners? Who are your individuals that will keep you grounded, that you can turn to, that have been with you and know you for you? And all the time when I'm engaging with C-level executives, when you're engaging with founders, it can feel very, very lonely.
Yeah.
And also, especially if you are not an individual who's good at creating a psychologically safe space for others, you shut yourself off from feedback. People are not being authentic with you. People are not telling you that was a little bit too harsh in that meeting, and you're actually de-energizing the team. People aren't giving you that feedback as readily. So who is? So that you can stay grounded, you can stay real. And if you are veering, if you are, when triggered, not behaving how you would hope to in your best self, who's letting you know that, right? And if we don't have that in place, we're literally starting to kind of close the window, and we're working from less and less true self-awareness. And Dan Goleman writes about that. He calls that CEO disease, where an individual, as it kind of moves further and further up the organization, they can close themselves off more and more from authentic feedback, which is super problematic, right?
Right. Absolutely. No, I love this. And I actually wanted to talk about this. It was a question I had about, I'm sure you're familiar with Marshall Goldsmith.
Oh, yeah.
He's a big fan of 360-degree feedback.
Yes.
Feedback in general, but really 360-degree. He's been doing this forever, right?
Yep.
And I think it's really, really important for leaders, regardless of middle management, C-level, wherever they're at, to get that feedback.
Yes.
And I totally agree. When you get to a certain level, like for instance, myself being an owner of a small business, but still an owner, for many years, I felt like I was on an island.
Yes.
I had really nobody. And my wife doesn't want to hear this stuff. I come home, it's like, all right, it's been 5 years of this, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm happy to hear it out, but and she doesn't understand. You really need somebody that can understand. And I think that feedback ties into having an accountability partner.
Sure.
We all need that, right?
Yes.
The checks and balances.
Yep.
So how do you go about when you consult or when you're teaching or in a seminar, how do you go about educating people on how important that is and being vulnerable and being open to getting the right? It's one thing it gets smaller and smaller, but you still need to be open to it.
Yes.
Right. And then when you get to that high level, it's tough. And I'll tell you one thing real quick that I did.
Sure.
Because I wanted to get that feedback.
Yep.
And being the owner, I don't report to anybody, right?
Yep.
So who am I going to ask? So I asked my kind of direct, people that report to me, and I said, I want you to, here's, 3 questions. What am I doing well? What could I work on? And any other feedback. Send it to my high performance coach.
Yep.
She's going to scramble it, mix it up, make it totally anonymous,
Yep.
sent back to me.
Yep.
So that they felt very free and open to say what they wanted to say.
Yeah.
And that was a good process. And I'm sure there's other ways of doing it, but I wanted to get that feedback, but I didn't want them to feel like, oh, well, he's going to know what I said. I had no idea,
Yes.
So yeah, feedback is incredibly important, right?
Yeah. And in so many areas of our lives where we're trying to improve something, you have a coach. The challenge in leadership and management oftentimes is that it's not a coach who's watching you perform in real time. It's oftentimes me speaking with a therapist, me speaking with a coach after the fact, getting some 360 feedback. That's like almost saying, well, I have a bunch of people who've gone to practice with me. Let's say I was a diver growing up. So I have a bunch of people who've been at practice with me, but I haven't actually had the coach watching me. So it's interesting. It's really kind of fascinating. I mean, so how do we set ourselves up to be successful? I had a woman on my podcast. Her name is Amy Elizabeth Fox, and she said something that was just beautiful. But she said, look, we're really working to ensure that these leaders are performance ready. And I actually just had 3 women from the Naval War College on as well. And that was a fascinating conversation because I said, so what's new? What's hot? What are you all thinking about at the Naval War College? And their answer just completely surprised me because they said, look, we know that technically we are going to train these individuals to do well. We know that they are going to be prepared when it comes to their knowledge about how to do warfare. And we know that they're going to be physically fit. But there's this whole other element of an individual, of a person, of a human. So are they spiritually ready? What is their spiritual readiness? And they said, we aren't going to put any we don't care what spirituality it is,
right?
But are you locked into that foundation of who you are and what you stand for? Is their family whole? And is that part of their life intact? So it was really, really interesting because they're starting to focus on that whole individual, that whole person, and getting into conversations like mindfulness, reflection, critical reflection, and again, ensuring that person's whole. So for me, who's that team? Who's that team for you? It could be your team that feels comfortable giving feedback. It could be a coach. It could be therapy. I've had a therapist for 17 years. He's incredible. I get on the phone. I go on a walk every 2 weeks, and I can say, hey, I'm not feeling as much energy about teaching anymore. What do you think? What's going on with that? Or this is really triggering me with my son. I'm not good enough to navigate that yet. What do you think? Help me think through this. So it's a thinking partner. Now, my wife and I also walk every morning at 5:30 a.m. We were out this morning with the Big Dipper and Orion. Cassiopeia was out, right?
5 a.m. club.
5 a.m. club. And she's a thinking partner for me.
That's awesome.
So it might be your spirituality, it might be yoga, it might be a really, really good friend, but are you arming yourself so that you're performance ready? Because as you know better than anyone else, having built a business, that's not easy work. That's incredibly difficult work. It's stressful work. But it's not sustainable long term unless we're investing in that. And again, that's what the Naval War College is thinking about.
Right.
How do we truly ensure that the whole person is healthy as can be, is as mature as can be? Because again, when you're leading, you have to bring a level of maturity to the table. And so those are a couple foundational things for me. Right? Are you locked into yourself from a moral, ethical standpoint? What are your values? And those will shift, but are you visiting that? And are you clear on that? But then next, who are your coaches? Who are your thinking partners? Who are those people who are helping you be the best version of yourself? And are you investing in that so that you are performance ready?
Yeah, and you said it right there.
Yep.
Investing in yourself is the best investment you could ever make. Right?
Well, if others are in your care, like one of my favorite leadership quotes, okay? So Bob Hogan said this. So we were talking about assessments, Hogan assessments. So Bob Hogan said, look, who you are is how you lead. So who are you? Well, that's a really, really important question.
Right.
Because if you're a little bit of an alcoholic who's somewhat of a pessimist, and that's what you're bringing to the table,
Right.
and that's who you are as a leader or a parent, because you could also say who you are is how you parent, who you are is how you coach,
Sure.
who you are is how you teach. Well, then that's what the team gets. A pessimistic, alcoholic boss.
Right.
And no one deserves that or wants that. So at least for me, that quote is so incredibly important because that's someone's personality, that's their maturity level, that's their values, that is that's their lived history, their actual knowledge about leading others, their skill when it comes to leading others, that's everything. And so who you are matters greatly. So for me, that team, are they helping you be the best possible version of yourself? Because if others are in your care, and this is our kids, this is our employees, this is our team members, they deserve that. They deserve the best version of you. So by no means is Scott perfect. By no means have I figured it out.
Right.
But I'm in process and I'm actively working on it and trying desperately to be the best father, to be the best colleague, to be the best thinking partner for others, right?
Yeah, I love that. And one thing that's key there is you committed to, and then we're going to talk about it here. I'm ready for this. You committed to continual growth.
Yes.
Right. And I think that's the real key. And I've seen a lot of good leaders. The differentiator between a good leader and a great leader is somebody who is open and willing to commit to change.
Yep.
Not every leader is. They feel like they've reached the mountains, right? They're already there. They're at the summit. There's nowhere else to go. You can't tell me anything that I'm not going to learn. I'm set in my ways.
Yep.
And that's really unfortunate. I've seen organizations crumble because the leader, right? The person at the top that's setting the tone for the whole organization that everything trickles down from is not open for feedback or change. So one of my favorite words, and I recently just learned this from the book that I'm going to gift you at the end of the show, which is The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari by Robin Sharma, which I absolutely love that dude to death. He is freaking amazing. I read that in there and I'm like, what is this? So I went to Google and looked it up. And it's funny, through the law of attraction, now I'm seeing it all over, primarily from you.
Yeah.
So that word is Kaizen.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So we got to go there. I absolutely love this concept. I've actually been given the 150 slide deck from Toyota about it, and I haven't dug into it yet, but it's crazy. And I started doing research, and I love Japanese philosophy. There's just a lot there, right? Especially when you talk about growth, leadership, and mindfulness.
Talk about people who've been thinking about this for a while.
Right, exactly, right? So let's talk about this. Educate our listeners on this, because I think it's a wonderful concept. That's how I live. That's how I'm built. And that's how I want to continue to live my life. Yeah.
Well, I think, it's in very, very, this isn't the 150 slide deck version. This is the four-word version.
We don't have time for that.
No, but it's like a continuous improvement as a way of being, right? Continuous improvement as a way of being. And I think at times it can be easy to think of that in kind of like an operations context, where we're trying to get another car off the line in a little bit less time. So we're going to, but that applies just as directly to a human being.
Absolutely.
What is my system? Like, so who are my thinking partners?
My
who
team.
are those individuals? And also, what is my system for continuous development and growth? Okay, so I'll give you a couple of mine that I've stumbled upon. So one is that group of thinking partners. Number two, my podcast. I mean, every week I have my butt kicked by speaking with someone from somewhere in the world who knows a heck of a lot more about something than I do, or has had some incredible experiences that I've never had. And that has systematized my learning. Every week I'm having conversations with folks, and it has just been this beautiful process and really confronted me with how little I know, right? You can say, he has a Ph.D. or he's studied this for 20 years. Well, I know a drop in an ocean.
Right.
I know a drop. Now I'm getting some more wisdom. I'm getting some more education, but that has been systematized, right? That whole learning and that whole growth. Another version of this is my wife. So we have a relationship where, she feels very comfortable saying, that didn't go well, Scott. Or, be thinking about this if you put this into motion. Okay. It might be an interaction that I had with the kids. It might be, that didn't go well. You gotcha. Probably could have intervened a little differently, or you didn't time that well. Right. And again, that's that 5 a.m. walk, 5:30 a.m. walk that we are on, where we're oftentimes downloading, debriefing, reflecting, kind of planning for how we might be talking about our daughter. How do we nudge her towards prioritizing her grades a little bit more? How do we influence her versus having to say, you've gotten this taken away and no more iPad and this is gone and you can't do this. No, we're gently nudging, influencing, and coaching, right? I mean, that's what we're trying to do.
You guys are doing that together.
Oh, 100%.
You give her feedback as well, so you guys have this open.
Yes.
And that is a beautiful thing.
It is.
I just want to say, not a lot of people are in that position.
It's awesome.
That's rare. I feel like.
So for me, it's just the water I've been swimming in, because that's the relationship that we've worked on. I mean, it's not easy.
Right.
And as you know, as a parent, I mean, what's also fascinating about that is I'm always confronted with new learning myself, right? So who are those individuals that are going to give that feedback to you? And that has also then systematized my learning, right? That has kind of helped me with that process. So yeah, there's a great quote. I can't think of who said it right now. Leaders are learners. So Kaizen, continuous improvement. Are we continually learning about ourselves, confronting those areas that maybe aren't where we want them to be yet, and slowly chipping away? I was telling you before we started recording this awesome, and I know you love James Clear, but this awesome also book by a gentleman named B.J. Fogg called Tiny Habits. And he is a behavioral scientist. He's fascinated by humans and behavior and how we change behavior. So endless energy for the concept of Kaizen, because none of us have arrived. Right. And that CEO you were mentioning a little bit ago, who maybe is afraid to be vulnerable, is afraid to say, I don't know the answer here, is afraid to show a side of them where they're going to have to follow and take the lead of some of the younger folks who probably do have some potential solutions. Right. You're right. They're cooked. Right. It's just a matter of time at this point for that individual, right? Because they've closed themselves off from getting that feedback, having that input, creating a psychologically safe space for others to have that input, and they're literally flying blind. People are going to sit in the meeting and nod their head and not say anything. Right. And then go have the meeting after the meeting at the water cooler and say, well, this is going to be a train wreck. And it's tragic. It's tragic in organizational life. Yeah. And sometimes when I say psychological safety, I think this doesn't mean that the leader has to agree with all the feedback, agree with all the input. Doesn't have to. Sometimes I'm going to have to make a decision, Todd, that you might disagree with. I totally get that. But I do want to hear it. I do want to hear your perspective. I need your perspective. Get it out so that we can kind of chart, as you know, when you're doing business strategy, how do I increase market share in the next year by 5%? Well, you can't call anyone to give you the answer. Right. No one has that answer. Bullet. I wish. But your best hope is that you have a team of people who feels like they can bring their best to the table. You all can have that knockdown drag out, and then maybe kind of collaborate on some things that are our best guesses, and we try. Right. Otherwise, you're flying blind. Yeah. And most of the time, in particular, employees, they just want to have their voice heard. Yeah. We see it in our NPS surveys, the employee surveys we do on an annual basis or biannual basis. People they just want to be heard. Do you care? Do you care? I have thoughts. I want to contribute. I want to feel like I'm a part of something. Yep. And people love to be challenged. Yes. The brain, we love being challenged and really pushed to the edge. Yep.
So,
and then as a leader, are you modeling when someone does have a great idea, or when it wasn't your mind child,
right?
You're highlighting with, this was Todd's idea. It was an incredible idea. It's totally transformed where we've gone as an organization. And then you're giving some of that credit, and that creates a we. And again, ultimately, I'm the authority figure, and I may make a decision you disagree with.
Right.
But I always want to hear your perspective. I always want to hear your feedback, because this is a fascinating topic, Todd, but we all suffer from about 180 cognitive biases that limit our ability to truly make sense of the world.
Right.
So we all of us have to walk into situations with a certain level of humility and curiosity when we're not getting the results we want, because we are all severely limited.
Yeah.
Perhaps the most important cognitive bias is that we don't think we are limited.
Right.
We do think we're making sense of the world as is.
Right.
And, we're not.
Yeah. And I love that. And that goes back to a book over there. Maybe you've heard me mention it, by Shannon Lee, Bruce Lee's daughter. Bruce Lee approached everything with an empty cup. Always just being open. The best type of cup is a cup that's empty.
Yep.
So you're going into every conversation with just an open mind, right? You're not making any assumptions. And I love that. I think that's what you're talking about here is just being open.
Yes.
Right? So
Yes.
to feedback, to ideas, and it doesn't have to be yours.
Yes.
So just because you're the leader doesn't mean it has to have your stamp on it.
And I think at times a lot of leaders, back to that CEO you were mentioning a little bit ago, they kind of do construct the role of leader as the person with the answers, leader with the person who has the solutions. And that's a very lonely place to be. Because again, a lot of the complexity that Rich Kramer at Goodyear right now is navigating, or Chris Gorman at Key Bank is navigating, or Trisha Griffith at Progressive, no one person has the answer.
Right.
And that's silly to think that that's the case. Their best hope is that they have a team of people who have their own level of expertise and the psychological safety to say, Chris, I disagree. No, Rich, I think we should probably move in this direction. Or this is a consideration we should probably elevate from my vantage point. And then we can co-create a path forward, and which ultimately is our best guess, right?
Right. Yeah. And I think it goes back to that team that you
Yes.
have, not only for the support and the checks and balances, but also surrounding yourself with amazing people.
Yes.
People that are smarter than you, and not
Yes.
being afraid to do that.
Well, and then,
know?
and as a leader, then when do I need to switch gears and move into a follower role? Because you have a heck of a lot more expertise than I do about your area of expertise.
Right.
I'm very limited, and we've had those conversations about my limitations when it comes to your world, right? I'm learning SEO. I'm learning a little bit more about how to market myself or think about how to do business development, but I have a heck of a lot to learn.
Right.
Heck of a lot to learn.
Right. Well, that's why we're, that's why we're taking on the philosophy of Kaizen.
Yep.
Kai meaning change, Zen meaning good.
Yep.
Change is good.
Yep.
It is.
Yep.
But it all comes down to you have to commit to it. You have to be open to it.
Yep.
That's the whole thing. And that's what the bold is really about. That's what I've been about. And like you, Scott, I am making mistakes daily.
Yes.
And that's okay, because I'm just iterating.
Yes.
I'm embracing the journey. It's an infinite game.
Yes.
Right? I mean, yes, we will die eventually.
Yep.
But the game of life is infinite. And if you think about it that way and embrace the journey, then you're just constantly on this continual improvement of being the best person you can be. And it's not only for you, but it's for everybody you serve.
Yep.
Right. And and I wanted to ask you about that, because when we talk about leadership, and when I asked you what your word is, mine, I think, is serve. So I wanted to ask what you feel the role of being a servant leader is, and how you infuse that into your teachings, into your consulting and workshops.
Yeah, so the whole concept, Robert Greenleaf came up with the concept of servant leadership, which was based kind of on some of the writings of Hermann Hesse. And servant leadership, de-elevates, depositions in some ways the leader as the focal point. The leader is an individual who's playing a role, and that role is to help the organization move forward to the best of their ability with the power and levers that they can pull. But it is not necessarily all about that individual or all about that person as the key. So it's this shift in mindset in my mind, and at least how I make sense of servant leadership, in the sense that it's about, how are you bettering the community? How are you bettering your team? How are you playing that role? And in some ways, one way I like to think about leadership also is that, are you unleashing the energy in the system? Are you kind of tapping in and unleashing all of that energy, and versus you being the source of it? Right? You always being the person who has to inspire. You have to be the person who motivates. No, there's a lot of energy in the system of people who can do motivating and inspiring things. Are you simply a conduit to let that emerge?
Right.
And it's a very, very different perspective, but it goes back to, in some ways, if you had the good idea, one way to help that energy emerge is to say, Todd came up with this. It was brilliant. It was incredible. Thank you. Right?
Gratitude.
And anything I can do to help you achieve further gains, let me know what that is. And then that's kind of me as servant versus necessarily the person being served all the time. Right? For me, what's interesting on this topic is, I think, when is it inappropriate to be a servant leader? Because I think at times we can, should Harry Truman have been a servant leader? Was he a servant leader? And so I think there's at times it can become very simplistic in our thinking about leadership, that it's always appropriate. Well, there may be times when servant leadership might get you killed or might damage the organization if you don't prioritize some other things. So for me, it's about intentionally choosing, generally defaulting to this is the role.
Right.
And I want to make that super clear, right? But there are times potentially when that approach, if you're surrounded by people with if you have the wrong team and they're really not doing anything, is it appropriate for you to maintain servant leadership all the time?
Right.
I don't know. That's kind of an interesting conversation. And we could get into a fun debate about that, but that's the type of stuff I love to think about.
Right.
So generally speaking, yes, awesome, good, a great mindset to have. And I think it can be overly simplistic if we think that's always the approach we need to take.
Right.
It might actually do damage at times. Again, especially if we have the wrong team, or if we're working for a bad actor, or our mission isn't aligned with what we probably should be doing.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's good. Empathy.
Okay.
What role does empathy play in leadership these days? I feel like COVID really, well, obviously, right? It changed everything on end.
Yeah, so this is another one that would be a little bit like servant leadership, okay? So
Time and place.
That's a question I love. Like, when is it appropriate to display empathy and have that as a way of being? When might it actually ruin your organization?
Yeah. Or
Or when might it in extreme cases, get you killed?
Yeah.
Or when is it not appropriate? And so I have some friends. I just finished a great book by Jocko Willink called The Dichotomy of Leadership.
Jocko, yeah.
So again, it could be very easy for me as a Ph.D. in academia to discredit a John Maxwell or a Jocko Willink or a Simon Sinek.
Right.
And those are important sources of knowledge, especially given the influence that Jocko has had in the larger landscape, right?
Absolutely.
So I need to be aware of that work. I need to be paying close attention to it. But and one reason I really respect Jocko is that his first book, Extreme Ownership, when I first heard that, I was like, oh, this is not going to go well when it interfaces with industry. Because you're going to have people, it can give the message that you have people out in there, I envisioned it, they're on the manufacturing floor barking orders about how everyone needs to have extreme ownership, right? And it can be taken incorrectly, I think, at times. And actually, in the beginning of dichotomy, he says, look, we saw how this interfaced with the world, and sometimes extreme ownership isn't appropriate. Sometimes it can be taken to an extreme. So dichotomy is all about kind of balancing these different things, like confidence and humility. Of course, you can be overly humble. You can also be overly confident. When is it appropriate to model both? And how do you kind of balance that, to use their words, right? So empathy is another one where it's incredibly important, incredibly important. There are contexts, though, where it could become a weakness.
Yeah.
And so I think for me, it's about intentionally choosing when is it appropriate to really, but if I overuse empathy on an employee that's just abusing me and abusing my kindness or my accommodations consistently,
right.
Well, now my organization is going to suffer, especially if I have 4 of them.
Sure.
So how do I balance empathy with, standards and accountability? And this is what I actually need from you. And it's the same thing with our children, right? I mean, we're constantly kind of balancing, to use their words. I like almost a metaphor of a dial. Like I might dial empathy up to a 7 sometimes, but I might need to dial empathy down to a 4 with an individual sometimes. Like I still care about you. I want you to be successful, but I also need this in this moment from you, because this is your job, right?
Yeah.
That's what you've committed to. And this is what I need. And so I might need to dial it down a little bit. And especially over, let's say this is over a period of months, I might need to dial down the empathy a little bit more. But people who they've held on to someone who was not doing their job, who was not following through, sometimes for years. And their coworkers suffer, their coworkers have to develop workarounds, and ultimately it does damage to the organization at times.
I absolutely love this. And it's not something that's been top of mind for me. So I love that you brought this up. I think it's really, really important.
Great book. Check it out.
Yeah, I will definitely. Yeah. And I love, so you have these foundational elements of being a servant leader, empathy.
Yeah, and we could go to a whole bunch of other really...
But that dial, I love the metaphor of seeing a dial. So my question back to you would be, well, how do I know? So if you're telling me that I need to have this balance, and I'm new to leadership.
Yeah.
So is this a class? Is this something that you can teach me? Or
Yes.
is it purely, I think a lot of it might just be experience, which that is time, right? To be in a situation and just know, you know what? Yeah, Johnny's been taking advantage of me. I really need to dial that empathy back a little bit.
Yes.
But how do you know, right?
Okay.
Is it a gut thing?
This is where we go back to the thinking partners.
Yeah.
This is where I have 3 or 4 people. Maybe I have a mentor in the community that has had a business for years. Maybe I have all kinds of mentors. I have the therapist that I mentioned, but I also have a mentor that I speak with every couple weeks. I have my wife. I have other people that I turn to for specific topics, whether it's money, whether it's health, whether it's that they're just an incredible leader and I want to get their perspective. So you have that team where you can say, hey, I got a case study for you. I've been dealing with this. What do you think? What do I potentially need to own in this? Because, I might be overly empathetic and I've let this drag on for 4 weeks. Right? Or 4 months or 4 years. So that comes back to those thinking partners for me. And do I have that team of individuals that can help me get this out of my head and help me navigate? Is it time to pull, kind of make the decision on Jim? It probably is. Do you think I'm off base here? No. And if as soon as you get saturation of 2 or 3 people saying, yeah, you probably need to make a decision here. Well, then, you've got some data and that's helpful. I think a lot of leaders let it bumble around in their head. They don't have those thinking partners and they're just trying their best. And, that's a different place to be.
Right.
Now, if you've been reading a ton, and if you've been reading Jocko, if you've been reading some of the great scholars, if you've been reading Leadership Challenge by Kouzes and Posner, you also have some inputs, right?
Right.
So that's where my mind goes back to, those thinking partners. And they're that team that's helping you be performance ready. And then to your point, yeah, then I've got the wisdom. After some of those people have helped coached me through some of those initial times I'm dealing with having my empathy be abused. Okay, now I know this is a thing. Okay, here. But for me, when do you activate those thinking partners? When you're not getting the data back that you want. I'm dealing with this. This keeps happening. Mm-hmm. This person's negative. How do I navigate that? What are my options? What experiments can I run to try and help this person, be more optimistic or dial down the negativity? Because I've tried a couple things, but they haven't worked yet. So what else can I try? Those thinking partners are the people that you turn to.
Mm. Well, I see a theme here. Thinking partners.
Yeah.
Having that team. And that's awesome. I love that.
Yeah. And I think I think you have to go in with those individuals in place. Right. I mean, it's not something that's just kind of happening 6 years in when everything's fallen apart. You've got those individuals that are going to keep you grounded, those individuals who are going to know you and what you value, and then those individuals that can provide that wisdom.
Yeah. I think the toughest part probably for a younger leader is figuring out who those people are going to be.
Sure.
That's they're still formulating their network and who, who's going to be that mentor or that coach. Yeah. But I think just the notion that we all need help. It's okay. We don't have to be macho man Randy Savage here. No. And just go out there and get it.
Yeah.
Get off your island.
And I think for me, the starting point of having a psychologist, I don't know why. I had a professor that this is like literally one of the only things I remember from undergrad. And it was my freshman year at the University of Minnesota. And I had a psychology class, and this teacher was a therapist. And she said, look, people come to me when their world's falling apart. That's when I'm meeting them, when their world's falling apart. And it's very hard to be helpful at that point. Mm. And for some reason, I don't know what it is.
That stuck with you.
But that stuck with me. And even in undergrad, I was seeing a therapist. And then I got into my career and I was seeing a therapist. And again, it's not because my world was falling apart. Sometimes it was.
Sure, right, yeah.
It was because I took that piece of advice, and this is a person who can help me. Now, you have to find the right fit. And I know that you have a coach that you really resonate with and that you really, really enjoy working with. And for me, it's just been absolutely game-changing because there's that consistent cadence. And not every meeting is this magical, wonderful experience or this, incredible insights, but it's that consistency over 17 years. This gentleman literally has watched me raise my kids, and having that individual who can be a thinking partner on some really difficult decisions that I've made, really difficult decisions, that having that guidance, I wouldn't trade it for anything. I mean, it's been invaluable.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm so impressed. I've learned so much about you today, Scott. The fact that you've been so mindful of yourself, your situation, your life, and challenges, to recognize that as an undergrad at 20.
Yeah, 21, 22. And in that case,
it's crazy to me, honestly. Like, how many people do that?
Well, in that instance, I'd had, a 3-year divorce of my parents. I'd had 2 really significant relationships end where I was the person being broken up with. So in those instances, things weren't where I wanted them to be.
So there was there were a couple significant events that.
Yeah, and then
you had this person that said it, and it was like, it just clicked. You're like, okay,
yeah, I need someone else to help me think through, because I knew keeping it in my head wasn't helpful. It wasn't going to get me where I wanted to be. And so, yes, and so again, when I look at leadership, because my undergrad degree was marriage and family therapy. It was family social science is what it was called, but it was all about a family and that family system. So that has direct relationships, so much of that thinking, to a small team, and the relationships in that team and the system of that team. So, yeah. I mean, I can go down this road also.
Yeah, no, and maybe I think we're definitely doing show 2 and 3, right? And it's important stuff. Like,
it's
really
100%.
These are great topics
Because it's not easy. I mean, leading others is, as you know better than anyone, it's incredibly difficult.
Oh, it is the most challenging. Well, I'll say being a father is
just
that
like parenting.
Role. Yeah.
Well, okay, so I'm going to tell you one quick story, and so when my wife was about to have our son, this is almost 17 years ago now, she said, look, I just hope you really enjoy this experience and stay present with this experience. And so for some reason, I kind of took that to heart, and Will was born. And on day 1, I opened up my laptop and I wrote a sentence. And on day 2, I opened my laptop and I wrote a sentence. And so literally since the girls, so I have twin girls and my son, every day, the first task I do is I write their one sentence. And
about
it might
each
be
one of them.
About each one of them.
Oh my gosh.
And it might be, you walked for the first time yesterday. We were in Alaska. Listen to this song. It's an incredible song. Here's a poem I love. Check in with it. Call your mom today. She's the best mom in the world. You know, any of that type of stuff. But for my son, in recent times, the statement has been, you're challenging me to get better. Because I'm not good enough yet in certain instances to navigate it the way I would like to navigate it, right? Some of the situations. And it's a mirror. Just like leadership can be a mirror. If we choose, it's very easy as a parent or as a leader to say, oh, they don't get it. They're not good. This isn't. Back to that empathy example. Well, sometimes if I'm avoidant of conflict and I haven't had the difficult conversations with this person, I'm actually part of the dysfunction. So those are the things that maybe you're talking about with your thinking partner, you know?
Right.
They can help you hold up the mirror and say, hey, well, how are you contributing to this dysfunction?
Right.
What their lack of performance? And so I think whether it's parenting, whether it's leadership, there's a mirror. And if we choose to look at it and look into it, we're going to learn a lot. But again, that's where those other individuals are so incredibly helpful, because without them, it just bumbles around in your head. And the natural human reaction is to be statements like, well, Gen Zs suck, or I can't stand millennials, or he doesn't get it. They don't get it. They're not good. It's called self-serving bias. We kind of externalize it and put it on all of them and minimize what we own in the dynamic. We often own something in the dynamic. Right? Yeah. Often we do.
Man, that gave me goosebumps, honestly. Like, I wish I would have done something like that. That is amazing. So, quick question.
Yeah.
Have you ever shared any of this with the kids or not? Is there a point in time where you do share, or is this something after, unfortunately, Scott's gone?
Yeah.
And it's there and the kids stumble upon it and are like, holy shit, like this is like a goal. Like, how many, there's not a lot of people that do something like that. Yeah, they might have a daily journal or meditation, but to be intentional about writing a sentence about each one, not just one kid, but 3 kids. Dude, honestly, my hat's off. Like, that is freaking amazing to me.
Yeah. Well, it stemmed from my wife just saying, I hope you stay present. So it was my way of.
But you took that to a whole nother
nother
level.
Well, it's funny because.
So you haven't.
What?
Shared it.
Oh, well, no, they know. They know that it happens because sometimes.
But they haven't seen it.
No, they haven't seen it.
That's what okay.
So sometimes I might say, hun, what should we say about Emily? Or what should we say about Will today?
So it's collaborative.
So sometimes
it's
is.
Not just you. Okay.
Sometimes it is. Sometimes I've had their grandmother write an entry for a day. Sometimes I might interview them and I might say, okay, so what's one word? I might say to Will, my son.
Do they love? How do they respond to that? Because I'm just picturing my 12-year-old daughter going, come on, Dad, enough of this positivity, happiness, manifestation. I get it.
Yeah. So, it might be a simple question like, what's your favorite word right now, Will? And, he'll say onomatopoeia or just something random, What's your favorite color right now, Emily? What's your favorite food? So I might interview him with just a quick question, give him a little snapshot of something. Or I might say, what's a word that comes to mind when you think of your brother? And she'll say smart, or maybe she'll give me a smart ass answer and I'll write that down, So it's always something a little different, but, yeah, maybe we're traveling in the UK or something and it will just be, okay, here's what we did today. So my sense is it'll kind of end when they turn 18.
Okay.
But I don't know when I'll give it to them just yet. But it's so ingrained just as it's the first task of the day. Rarely has it ever.
Ingrained.
Yeah.
Habit.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It all goes back to habits.
Yep.
And the C word that you said a few times, ironically, consistency.
Yeah.
Right. James talks about it in Atomic Habits. Everything is about consistency and everything is about patterns and habits. I am a huge, I say it in every episode, but I am. And it is truly important. And this type of stuff, growth, is all about repetition. It's all about consistency. Right.
And getting that feedback, and it's about, and you used a word that I loved, iterating, the Kaizen.
Right.
It's
never done.
No.
It's never done. You're not going to check the box. That's what, being a perfectionist, that's what hosed me up for a long time, was I just wanted to check it off and be done and move on. Yeah. Right. That I'm a task guy. And that is not the way to go.
Yep.
Not in this model. You got to play Simon's game, the infinite game, and just keep on going and iterating.
And I think it goes back to leadership and parenting, and it go to coaching, go to teaching. We could take it in a lot of different directions, but I've learned so much about certain phases of parenting. I thought, okay, I got this down. This is locked in. This is the best. But certain phases have kicked my butt, where they start to have an opinion, or they start to say back what you think, what they think.
You have two girls too.
Yeah. So, and they're awesome. I mean, they're incredible. And as you get into some of these different phases, I'm learning new things about myself, or I'm getting triggered in different ways by certain things. And I think the same thing happens in leadership, because that individual who assumes the role of CEO hasn't been a CEO before. And there is a lot of new learning at that level. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of new learning if we choose to hold up the mirror and really pay close attention to it. Right. And I think those leaders have a shot. Those leaders who are continually learning, have those thinking partners, are trying really hard to create that psychological safety, that environment where people can bring their voice. Mm-hmm. They have a better shot. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to win. That doesn't mean we're always going to have success. But in my opinion, based on talking to people all over the world about this and studying this, those are a couple core foundational things that, like, okay, you probably should have these things in place if you want to play the infinite game and be successful long-term. Gotcha. Sustainable. Yeah. Well, that's a good segue, because you were talking about all these conversations that you've had with leaders, not only nationally, internationally. Let's talk about the podcast for a minute. I mean, kudos to you, from one podcaster to another, to do weekly episodes. It's a lot of freaking work. I'm a one-man band here. It is hard. Yeah. It is a lot of hard work, commitment, being consistent. And you've done close to 250 episodes. Yeah. So 52 weeks a year, 4 years worth of just crushing it. And I highly recommend listeners, if you're into leadership at any level, check out Scott's podcast, Phronesis. You can find it on all the podcast apps. It's great. Really good conversations. I love listening to it. It's one of my top leadership podcasts. How do you do it? And how have you done it for so many years? I know you said the educational, and that's what I love about it. Like, just having you on, like, we're friends. I know you, but I did my research, and there's a lot to dig in there. It's a little project, school project. So I'm constantly learning. I'm forced, whether I want to or not, and I want to, and that's why you do it, right? Because it's filling my tank. And it's all good stuff. It's about personal growth, which I love. So I'm growing and adding to my personal growth, but hopefully inspiring others to do so as well. So I wanted to give a shout out to that, because it's really inspiring what you've done. Anything you want to talk about the podcast, or are you going to continue to do it? Okay. Yeah. Good. So it's one of my greatest sources of motivation right now. And so this is all I'm going to be singing a lot from the same hymnal as you when I say this, but okay, so there's like 7 wins in podcasting. Probably 10, but I'm not going to get all 10. So first, I'm learning. Mm-hmm. Second, I am building relationships. I'm building my network. It's led to writing projects. It's led to consulting projects. It's highlighting the great work and the great thinking of other people. So it's given me a little bit of a platform and made me a little bit of a hub in the community of kind of leadership scholars and people who are passionate about that. It's helped me practice communication. Bottom line, right? Like having conversations and improving. Sometimes I don't understand the conversation. So how do I get out of this? This is interesting. Where do I go next? Sometimes the guest might be a little bit more difficult. So how do I pull them out and make them feel comfortable? So I'm practicing communication. So there have been so many wins with this one project that for me, I will continue to do it for sure. I was literally driving here today, listening to an episode, and it's for me when I listen to, I do the interview, and of course I remember the interview, but it's a little bit like Will Ferrell in Old School. He gives the speech and he kind of shuts down. I always hear the episode after it's been edited, and that's where the learning really sinks in.
Because you're in the moment, it's hard to digest it, right?
So again, and then also it's helped me just get into conversations like this, and I have so much wisdom that has been imparted to me. People say things in episodes and I'm like, oh, that is awesome. I love that phrasing. I'm going to take that, right? So that performance ready phrasing from Amy Elizabeth Fox, it's like, that is so good.
That is.
That, or who you are is how you lead. That was said by a guest, Doug Lindsay from the Air Force Academy. And I'm like, I love that. And that is, so it's given me all these little nuggets that then I use in presentations. So then I stand up and I'm citing all of the people who said these things, but people walk away saying, Scott Allen said this. And I'm like, no, I didn't. This person said that. But, so it has armed me with a whole bunch of conversation pieces as well. So I've loved it. There's so many wins. It takes time. It takes effort. It takes money. It takes all of that.
It does. It's a show. A lot of people don't realize. And there are some crappy ones too, where someone just gets a pair of headphones, maybe not even a mic, and just spins it up. And that is the beauty of the internet and what someone can. You can just go out, freedom of speech, and say what you want to say. But to do it right, to really have, and at your level and the guests that you're having, it has to be at this professional level, right? Yeah.
But it is another, I said it builds your network, but it does give you access to people that you should have no business, the former prime minister of Greece or the first female president of Croatia, they're zooming in.
Who
and
are
I'm,
you, right?
I'm feeling nervous as I'll get out, to speak with these individuals. Cool.
You're getting out of your comfort zone, right? To have that conversation.
That's another one. So it's helped me get better at failing, and because you're constantly putting yourself out there to be rejected.
You are.
And so I've gone to Adam Grant, I've gone to James Clear, I've gone to these individuals, but another fellow podcaster said, and I might not get this correct, but he said, I'm not going to let them say no. How does he phrase it? I'm not going to let them say no for me. Basically, he's like, I'm going to ask them and they're going to say no, right? I'm not going to not do it, not put myself out there and have a no in my mind before they've even said it, right? I can't phrase that well right now, but
I get what you're saying, because I've had that conversation actually just in the past week about don't be afraid to ask.
Yes. Yeah. 100%. So
I've always been that way. Like, I feel like if I'm asking, I'm not good enough.
Totally.
Right. That imposter syndrome. But what the hell?
Who cares?
I'm going to ask you 5 times. Leave me a review, Scott. Leave me a review on Apple. It's so hard. People. It's so hard to get a good review.
And it's
and
hilarious.
They love you, but it's just time, right?
Yep.
So it's okay. It's okay to ask.
Yeah, it is. And so it's funny because I have not yet had Adam Grant on, but
You will.
well, yes.
Manifest that.
The first time I got just a stock email from kind of someone else. And then the second time he actually wrote me and said, sorry, I'm too busy. So I'm getting closer.
Too busy. Too busy is not a no. That means the door's open.
Yeah.
That means, maybe.
Yeah. I was close on, you mentioned Marshall Goldsmith. So all of those kinds of,
Yeah.
that's another learning in all of this is just putting myself out there in a way. Another learning is putting myself out there on the internet in a different way, on LinkedIn and such, like the self-promotion piece of all of this that can be internalized by some as, oh, he thinks he's all that, but
We're
still,
gonna help you get over that.
but still, you know what I'm saying?
It is, but you're a personality.
Yeah.
You're the expert. You got to get you out there.
Yeah. But it's helped me push on some of those areas of myself that I may have been more insecure about or felt less confident in doing.
Right.
So I'm excited for you because it's so much fun.
It is.
Yep.
This is Friday.
Yeah.
And
I know.
are we
You're at work.
Are we working?
So am I. I'm at work, right? Yeah. I mean, silly, right?
I just gained at least 5 nuggets.
Yeah.
Hopefully I can remember them because I can't take notes while we're doing the show. But man, this is great, and we can go on and on. So Scott, let's talk about you talk a lot about the future of work.
Yep.
And my gosh, since COVID, the future of work has been flipped on end. It's changed dramatically. I think we all agree with that. And depending on who you read, when you read, and actually Scott's got a great e-newsletter too, weekly.
Yep.
Yeah, weekly. Lots of good nuggets, great curation of leadership content throughout the internet. And there was one that I found on yours a couple weeks ago, and I apologize, I should have told you that it was really helpful, but there was an article, maybe it was Gallup, I think, that was talking about just 2 different viewpoints about coming back to the office, right?
Yes.
That's been the topic. I don't want to spend a ton of time on that because I feel like if we do, we're going to go down some rabbit holes.
Yeah.
But let's talk a little bit about how that has affected leadership and how maybe you teach or train people about how to be a leader when you don't see your people in the office every single day, right? I think there's probably some pros and cons. I've seen both.
100%.
So our workplace, I created a style or a program called Work Your Way.
Yep.
I don't care. As long as you're working, you can come in the office every day. You can come in part of the time and be a hybrid, or you could stay home and work from home every single day.
Yep.
It's the way that you want to work.
Yep.
But that creates a lot of challenges as well. And to be a leader, and especially those that like to be visible, which is me, it's been a big challenge for me, to be honest. But I'm curious to learn just about your take on that, how the workplace has changed and how leadership needs to pivot and change and evolve with it.
Okay. One of my favorite quotes is, every system's perfectly designed for the results that it achieves. Every system is perfectly designed for the results that it achieves. So Earth, there's a system in place right now that allows us to be here. That's awesome, right? Or Chick-fil-A, they seem to have a system in place right now that is yielding a certain level of profit and revenue. KFC has a different system in place right now. KFC's system used to be top of the pile, no longer is it, right? So I love this quote because this quote just it's harsh and it's awesome. We have all kinds of systems that could be your system of retention of employees. Certain systems are yielding engagement of employees, back to Gallup. Certain systems are yielding market share and revenue. So leaders solve puzzles. That's what leaders do. They solve puzzles. Now, there's a great Harvard Business Review article called A Leader's Framework for Decision Making. It's a little bit older. It's 2007, but it's classic. And they divide problems that leaders work into 4 types: simple, complicated, complex, and chaotic. I'm going to keep chaotic on the side, but that's like a January 6th. There's an emergency. It's Milton, it's a hurricane, it's something that we weren't necessarily expecting, and things are a little chaotic in the beginning, and we're trying. So that's a type of leadership. September 11th. Simple, there's no knowns. There's answers. Complicated, there's answers, but we're going to have to call the attorney. We're going to have to call an expert to get the answer here, but answers do exist. A lot of your day, Todd, you're in complexity. As soon as you add a human, you're in complexity. There's an infinite number of variables between the two of us, an infinite in our lived histories, our personalities, our knowledge, an infinite number of variables. So if you're trying to design a team or a high-functioning team, well, that's a complex adaptive challenge as well. Just there's no one you can call in the world to say, hey, I've got Steve, Peter, Mary, and John here. What are the 4 things I need to do to create a really great team? No one in the world. There's people who tell you they have the answer.
Right. Yeah.
But no one does.
That'd be nice.
No one does. Same thing with strategy. There's no one you can call right now in the world to say, hey, I want Evolve to increase its market share by 10% in 2025. What are the 6 steps? Doesn't exist. So back to Kaizen, we're iterating, we're learning, right? So this also gets to a point where I think leaders and vulnerability is an important conversation, because I think sometimes leaders think that they are the person who has to have all the answers. When I would argue, especially in complexity, leaders are the people who elevate the right questions. Okay, we're moving to a place of work from home. How are we still going to maintain the culture of our organization? What are we going to do? What experiments are we going to run to ensure that this culture stays tight? We're doing work from anywhere, work from home, or what was the phrasing that you used?
Work your way.
Work your way. I want to have that, and I also want us to be a really high-functioning team. So what are we going to do to really ensure that we are a high-functioning team? And then you as the leader are elevating the right questions. Back to psychological safety, I have a team of people who are willing to have that conversation and feel like they can put their voice into the space. You're also asking things like, work your way is great, but how are we going to hold each other accountable? So we're elevating the right questions. If it's manageable, designing that with the team, and then we're iterating. Are we achieving our goal? Do we feel like a high-functioning team? You're going to start getting data. The system's going to start kind of telling you, is this working? Is it not working? Are we where we want to be? And oftentimes we want things to be fixed and solved and like perfect over here. It's not a thing. But are we moving the needle? Are our intervention and our experiments back to Kaizen, right? If I want to get the car off the line a little bit quicker, what are some experiments we can run to see if we can actually make that happen? It's the same thing with teams. It's the same thing with business development. It's the same thing with strategy. It's the same thing with this podcast. It's the same thing with me trying to increase the listenership of my podcast. I'm running experiments, and then I'm paying close attention to the data that's coming back. And, so you mentioned the newsletter. My goal this year was to get that newsletter to 6,000. I started at about 3,500. I'm at 4,000 subscribers.
Oh, congrats, man.
Well, and I'm not at 6.
So?
It's almost the end of the year. So I don't say, oh, I've failed, and people don't want to subscribe to podcast or newsletters anymore. Rah, rah. I could tell myself that story, but I could also say, what are some new experiments I can run? The results aren't what I want. I'm not there yet. So I have this growth mindset that solutions do exist. For Scott to get that newsletter to 10,000 subscribers, right. Totally solutions exist. And so there's a mindset there. So for me, that question, it kind of doesn't matter. The puzzle doesn't matter. It's just another puzzle. So it's, how do I design the culture of my organization? How do I develop a high-functioning team? How do I hold my team accountable in a work-from-home environment? How do I? And then if it's appropriate, I'm having that conversation with the team, or I have some thinking partners that I'm saying, how do I? And they say, well, you could try this, you could do this. And you're running experiments. You're in that infinite game back to that piece of the conversation. Yeah. It's the same algorithm. So this is a master algorithm of elevate the right question, identify 15, 20, 30 experiments you could run them, get the results, figure it out. How did that go? Oh, it worked. Great. What else are we going to try? That's curing cancer. That's influencing our children. That is work from home. So for me, there's this master algorithm when it comes to trying to solve complex adaptive challenges and it's basically a variation of the scientific method, but it goes back to that Kaizen, right? Yeah. It's just iterating, trying, experimenting, getting the data back. It didn't work. Why? What else could we tweak? What could we try? Okay, let's do that. Let's tackle it that way. And then we're trying to win, whatever win means. That could be high functioning team. That could be increased market share.
Employee retention.
It could be any of those things. The challenge we as humans often struggle with is, and I see this over and over, Todd, you've come into this as well, but it's tragic when you have a leader say something like, well, Gen Zs don't get it. They don't want to work. So there's nothing we can do. You're dead. You're done. It's cooked because you've given up working the puzzle. Of course, there's incredible Gen Zs out there. Of course, there are people who want to work above and beyond. We're not finding them right now. Right. What are we going to try differently? Putting an ad in the paper or on,
LinkedIn?
It didn't work. So what do we try now to get best in class talent?
Right.
But again, oftentimes we will, as humans, make excuses, kind of externalize it. It has nothing to do with us, and tell ourselves stories. And oftentimes they kind of are designed to take us off the hook. Mm-hmm. People don't want to be part of newsletters. No,
that's the easy road.
That's the easy road. But I think the real leaders, and I think they stick with them if it's important to them. I got to put that caveat in there. Sometimes I might not care, so it's like not a big deal to me. But I kind of love the puzzle of, how do I get my LinkedIn connections to 15,000 in a fairly authentic way? How do I increase the listenership of the podcast, the subscription of the newsletter? Those are they're puzzles and they're fun. My daughter and my wife, they love Sudoku and Wordle and the New York Times puzzles. I love these types of puzzles.
Yeah.
But it's just another puzzle. So that's how I think about it. I don't know if that.
No, it does. It resonates with me. I love it. And I think that the key word you keep saying is experiment.
Yeah.
And the one thing that's tied to the hip with experimentation is there is a good chance you will fail.
Yes.
So you have to be open. You cannot be risk adverse. You have to be open to the possibility that you may fail. But that's when you get back up and you learn.
You will fail.
You will fail. Yeah. Yes, you're right. You will fail. If you're continually practicing and testing, experimenting, you're going to fail, but you have to be okay with that. 100%. Right? And a lot of people aren't. So,
well, again, I'm vulnerable if we failed. Right. I'm vulnerable. Or I have to admit I didn't know. Well, yes, I 100% agree. Some leaders, they can't handle that. They can't handle being vulnerable, being wrong, not having the answer, that ego and that imposter syndrome and all of those things.
That's where you get stuck at good.
100%.
You can't get to great, right?
100%. Yeah.
Good to great.
Yeah. Well, and so I love what you just said there because, you have to, and there's a beautiful clip of Jeff Bezos online where he talks a lot about this. He's like, look, if you're experimenting, you're going to fail. There's cancer docs literally down the road right now who have spent their whole adult life experimenting and trying to move the needle on this thing called cancer and failing forward, to use a John Maxwell, because it's iterating, right? It's iterating, and not all of those iterations, not all of those experimentations are going to work, or those experiments are going to work. But that's the gig. That's the game. Now, do we want to have massive, big failures? No. But are we failing small, and are we failing fast, and are we learning and capturing that learning? Of course, we don't want to fail and make the same mistakes over and over. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about if I own a store, let's say it's a car dealership, and we're not getting best in class Gen Zs, well, what else are we going to try?
Right.
What is it about our culture that doesn't attractive to a Gen Z? maybe, that model of what was in 1995 isn't appropriate for 2020. Maybe we're part of the problem.
Right.
Interesting. Hold up the mirror, right?
Right.
And it's interesting.
Just be open.
Yeah.
Just be open.
Yeah.
Man.
So that's how I think about the answer to that question.
Yeah.
And really a lot of other of the puzzles, whatever they are.
I love the puzzle metaphor. It is. Every day is a puzzle. Call it a fire, whatever. You just have to be open. My whole mentality, and this goes back to a program I went through, Positive Intelligence, is all about finding the gift and opportunity at every scenario, every situation. And when you come to it with an open mind, no assumptions, and you find there is a gift.
Yeah.
If you look hard enough, there is a gift.
Yes.
And if you're open to it, then things are going to be great. You're going to be successful, right?
Oh, 100%. Then it's just a matter of time. It's a matter of that consistency, that persistence, and then you will chip away. The person who's stuck in, there's no good Gen Zs out there. They'll be stuck. Yes, there are none for you.
You're done. And you, eventually you will lose your team, lose your people, and you will not move up the chain.
Yeah, or you'll stay stuck.
If you're the owner, then you're just going to be putting in 120 hours a week and basically creating an expensive job for yourself.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're not going to empower, you're not going to grow your team. You're not going to teach them your job.
Yes.
Right? So you're just again, building, Tony Robbins said this, you're building yourself an expensive job. Scott, wow, man. Like I wish I was able to take notes. I'm going to listen back to this. Like, I feel like I just went to school, brother. And it's funny. Like,
I love talking about it.
Obviously, you've spent your whole career
and I'm learning too while we're talking. So that's super helpful.
Like,
100%.
But it's not about me. That's one thing I learned about being, the host. This is about you. And I feel like I know what I've learned, and I'm constantly learning about leadership. But man, you brought up some really great points that I hope our listeners take away. We'll have a ton of stuff. So I want to collab with you on show notes because there's a ton of links to books or quotes or even your podcast that you mentioned that I'd like our listeners to have easy access to. Man, this is just so good. So you offer so many different things. You have the podcast, so please check that out. You also do consulting. You're a keynote speaker.
Yep.
You do tons of writing. And you offer these great leading retreats. You've worked with a lot of really great companies. That's a very impressive list. And we won't go through them all, but you can go to Scott's site and see them. I mean, these are some big name companies, especially here in Northeast Ohio. We have some big ones.
Yeah.
If somebody's interested in learning more about you or potentially having you do a keynote speech for them or having you come out and do a workshop for their leadership team or hold a retreat, what's the best way for them to do that?
So scottjallen.net.
Okay.
Great way to find me and kind of connect into the newsletter. Please subscribe.
Yeah, please do. Absolutely.
I'm trying to get to 6,000.
Let's help this guy out.
So this is an experiment.
This is absolutely. No. And we'll have it in the show notes too.
scottjallen.net or LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn quite a bit.
You are. Yeah.
So I love that platform, and
perfect.
That's another great source of learning too.
It is. So, it really is. And it's funny how it's kind of stayed. I wondered for a moment if it was going to veer into too personal and into the Facebook, Instagram. Oh
my gosh,
lane,
I'm so happy it hasn't.
But it stayed. I think there's a good balance, and people notice that. Yeah, you have a few people that maybe push the boundary, but I like a little personality in there every now and then, you know? So, man, we're going to do this again.
Yes.
Absolutely. I am jacked. I'm stoked about this conversation.
Well, and I'd love to have you on mine. So let's set that up.
Yeah. I was nervous about having you on this show. I can't imagine going on your show with the types of leaders you had on there. But no, I'd be honored to do that. I'm humbled that you just spent, a couple hours of your day to come here and be on our show. Leadership is a very important part of our show, personal growth, leadership. So having you on, and I think we just touched on so many different things, lots of takeaways.
And hopefully it's kind of, as I've studied this topic, they become one and the same. There's a guest I had on who you should have, better humans, better performance. I think if you're a human, hopefully you're growing and maturing and developing. If you're a leader, you're growing, maturing, and developing. I mean, it's hard to have one without the other, right?
It really is.
So,
and once you stop learning, you stop leading.
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
I mean, that's what it's really all about. So,
Yep.
well, thank you, my friend.
Cool.
This has been awesome.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. You are on your way to growth, transformation, and joy. If you find this episode helpful, please like and share with your friends, and by all means, please leave us a review. You can also view the show notes and subscribe to the Bullet newsletter at toddbirch.com. Remember, real change takes time. Start small and watch that growth take shape.